This is the MGTOW Infinium here with another Infinium short take. This Infinium short take is entitled The Reaction. Now, my MGTOW brothers, before I get started, I have to include a disclaimer into this video. And the reason why I'm doing so is because of the ongoing association of the MGTOW philosophy with violent acts, that the philosophy itself promotes violence against women, that type of thing. But on to the disclaimer. I, as well as every member of the MGTOW community, do not condone the rape of any female or male under any circumstance or condition. As such, anyone who has been raped deserves to have justice served and have all the help that they need to recover from such an incident. Now, I'm going to set that aside, and what I would like to discuss with you today, my brothers, is the circumstances surrounding Anthony Broadwater and the author Alice Sebold. I'm not going to go into a detailed explanation as to what happened. I'm just going to give you a brief covering of what happened. For that, there is a lot of information out on the internet regarding Broadwater and Sebold and what occurred, how it occurred. And so, again, I encourage you, my brothers, to go out and check into these things for yourselves. But just briefly, Anthony Broadwater was falsely accused of rape by Alice Sebold, causing him to lose nearly 40 years of his life. Broadwater spent 16 years in prison and also spent another 23 years of his life as a registered sex offender until being exonerated in late 2021. During these 40 years, Alice Sebold became a widely acclaimed author by writing a book about Broadwater's crimes against her. As well, Sebold's works, The Lovely Bones, was adapted into a film, and it was the attempted adaptation of Lucky, another book by Sebold, into a TV movie, which ultimately resulted in Broadwater's exoneration. And had it not been the work of, Timothy, and you have to forgive me if I butcher his name, Musciante, I believe that's what it is, Musciante, who was a producer on the TV adaptation of Lucky, Broadwater may have never been exonerated. Musciante, who was a convicted felon, began to question the facts surrounding Lucky, and ultimately, because of the demands of TV executives, halted production of the TV movie. Musciante then hired a private investigator who found that based on the evidence surrounding the case, Broadwater was clearly innocent. Now, in the few months after Broadwater's exoneration, it did go before a judge based upon the evidence that was there. The judge exonerated Broadwater, and rightfully so, because again, he was innocent. And all through his suffering, all through those 40 years, he proclaimed his innocence. He stuck to his guns and he proclaimed his innocence. And again, it was because of Musciante's work that Broadwater was able to be exonerated. But a few weeks or so after his exoneration and proof that Broadwater was innocent, Sebold did issue a half-hearted apology for what had happened. As well, there were content producers on platforms like YouTube who also issued half-hearted condemnations of Sebold, but from what I observed, there was a reluctance to fully pull down any content that had glowing reviews of Lucky, the work that basically allowed Broadwater to suffer and also caused Sebold to profit off of his suffering. And again, my brothers, it's not so much of my doubting of what happened to Siebold in terms of her rate. It is a doubting of what occurred when she fully understood, I believe, that Broadwater was innocent. And again, it is to address the half-hearted addressing of Broadwater's situation, which I would like to take a look at. And number one, according to the evidence found by Musciante, Siebold must have realized that Broadwater was fully innocent, or possibly innocent, I should say. And yet, Siebold let Broadwater suffer for all those years until Musciante's work set him free. Knowing this only makes Siebold's, knowing this myself, I'm saying to myself actually, knowing this fact makes to me, in my opinion, Siebold's apology to Broadwater that much more half-hearted. And because, again, Musciante found that when Siebold wrote the book Lucky, she had to go through all the evidence and the data surrounding that case. So it should have been clear to her, because it was clear to Musciante when he looked at the evidence, when his private investigator looked at the evidence or pulled up the evidence, that Broadwater was innocent. But yet again, Siebold overlooked this and continued to let Broadwater suffer with these accusations, which he was clearly innocent of. And number two, there is the dichotomy of profitability. On one side, I see Siebold's willingness to again forego a man's innocence over profit. On the other hand, I see Musciante's willingness to forego profit to ensure that an innocent man was set free. And again, Musciante, it is known that he is a convicted felon. So he basically could have gone either way. He could have gone the greedy way and continued with the TV production and put that money in his pocket. But he looked at that work. He looked at what was going on with Lucky, and he saw discrepancies. He saw things that didn't seem right, and he stepped up to the plate and stopped the production, got a private investigator, and that led to, again, Broadwater being exonerated. And so what I'm saying, my brothers, again, Musciante, because he was a convicted felon, he understood what Broadwater was going through, his suffering. And he understood the dichotomy, again, of somebody who was truly wrong for what he did versus somebody that was not wrong, that didn't have anything to do with what happened, and who was innocent. He understood it. And he had the opportunity to just say, well, I'll just overlook this. I'll put the money in my pocket. I'll make the production, make myself famous, get more work. Or I can do the right thing and get a man who is innocent set free from all these things that are hanging over his heads. Number three, there is the half-hearted backpedaling of the content producers who produce content before it was known what was truly the facts about Broadwater's situation. So basically, again, when Lucky came out and all the other books came out, and particularly Lucky, there were glowing reviews put out. All these things were said about Sebald's work, and again, this was before the true facts, before Musciante did what he did, and the true facts had come out about what had happened to Broadwater. So now, when everything is out on the table, these content producers are saying, well, hey, I'm sorry what happened to Broadwater, but I'm not going to pull down the content. This is before this happened, and we have to understand that this is in a different time, and this and that, and whatever, and we don't want to diminish what happened to Sebald, blah blah blah. But my brothers, again, Anthony Broadwater was imprisoned, both physically and non-physically, in terms of having something hanging over their head. So, for instance, my brothers, if you have a charge over your head, like you're a convicted felon, where you did something where you know you didn't do it, but there that charge is. What about getting a job? What about getting credit? What about getting a car? All these types of things. That stuff is out there because it's public record. And so again, there is the issue of this man's suffering versus Sebald being just made out to be a bad person who put something out on a book or whatever and caused this man to suffer. And the thing is that, again, Anthony Broadwater lost nearly 40 years of his life. And this is not to dismiss Alice Sebald and her situation and what happened to her, but there is the issue that there is a high probability that she knew Broadwater may have been innocent of those charges, but she allowed it to continue. And see, that's what I feel is dismissive of Broadwater, and that's why I feel that these content producers who are saying these things, who are saying that, well, yes, it's sad what happened to Broadwater, but we have to look at things and look at this and look at that, blah blah blah. It is being dismissive of a man who lost 40 years of his life. Anthony Broadwater is not going to be able to recover fully from this situation. Yes, there are things that can happen legally down the line where he can have restitution, but he has lost 40 years of his life. That's what's going on, my brothers. And also, I became particularly offended at one YouTube content creator because she mixed up, or actually tried to muddy the waters in terms of what happened to Broadwater and Sebald, and she did so by bringing into the mix J.K. Rowling. And her premise is that, what do you do when you find that an author has done great works, but you find that they are a bad person, they have done something or said something wrong? What do? You dismiss their works, or do you or just carry on? But see, my brothers, the issue surrounding J.K. Rowling is this. She, I believe it was last year sometime, she came out with some transphobic statements. And there was a lot of controversy, and which I'm not going to get into because again, my brothers, you can go out on the internet and see what she did, and I don't want to focus on J.K. Rowling right now, but that's what she did. And so this content producer was saying basically J.K. Rowling's statements were just as bad as what SIBO did to Broadwater, which again, my brothers, Anthony Broadwater lost 40 years of his life, not due to a statement, but because somebody who could have enacted a process where he was set free didn't do so. And it took the work of an ex-convict to actually get something done. If it wasn't for Musiante, Broadwater would still have these situations over his head. It was Musiante who actually found Broadwater and found who he was in actuality. He was the one. It was not SIBO. And so again, the mixing up of what J.K. Rowling said with the action of SIBO is, in my opinion, it is wrong. Because again, Anthony Broadwater, his life was pretty much destroyed by what had happened to him. And if, again, Musiante hadn't did what he did, Broadwater would still be with these things over his head. He would have been in a prison, not a physical prison, but a psychological prison for the rest of his life with charges that he knew he was innocent of over his head if it wasn't, again, for the work of Musiante. And so that's why I find it is particularly offensive when we as men approach women and tell them what is wrong, what is happening, why we men are walking away from women, why we won't consider what they say to us of any value anymore. These situations like Broadwater, which Broadwater's situation it is not a type of thing where it is abnormal. It is, quote unquote, the normal. My brothers, again, I don't have to really explain to you what the types of things we men face on a daily basis. Again, we live in a society where we men, just by saying hello to a woman, just by being friendly and smiling at a woman, can find ourselves in jail under an accusation of rape just by doing something innocent. And so that's why I find it very offensive that these content producers and the other people that have looked at SIBO's work are really, again, muddying the waters, throwing all types of things into the pot, so to speak, when clearly it is a issue that has nothing to do with J.K. Rowling, has nothing to do with being a bad person or this and that. It is something that it was clear that the right thing could have been done, and for whatever reason, which I suspect is profit, or just backing up and say, look, I was wrong, and I did something wrong, and I know I was hurt, but I did something wrong, and I messed up your life. That's what it's about, my brothers. That's what it's about. And see, Bo's apology to Broadwater, it really wasn't um, anything like that. It was more so, well, the police did something wrong. They messed up, and we have to ensure that these types of things don't happen in terms of law enforcement. And really, again, yes, it is partly the fault of the policing that was done at that time, but that blame also lies in Siebold's hands, because Siebold basically can go on with her life, and Anthony Broadwater can, yes, he can begin to kind of recover. But my brothers, again, when something devastating like this happens, long term, 40 years, he's never going to recover all of that fully. So, my brothers, leave any comments, any suggestions, or feelings about what's going on. But again, these are the things that we Red Pill and MGTOW content producers talk about. And this is why we become very persistent about you, my brothers, consuming your red pills, embracing the MGTOW philosophy, and holding the line, because these types of things are happening not only to Broadwater, but to many men in westernized societies which are controlled by the feminist plantation state. This is the MGTOW Infinium, and this has been an Infinium short take. My MGTOW brothers, as always, stay safe, stay strong, stay on the MGTOW path, and remember, MGTOW is the liberation of men's minds. MGTOW cannot and will not be stopped.